Welcome to Rinkside Rundown, the podcast that puts you right in the heart of women's hockey. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and each week I'm on a mission to showcase the incredible women who are lighting up the ice across the globe. Get ready as I chat with rising stars, seasoned pros, and all the game changers making waves in the world of women's hockey that you won't find anywhere else. So, let's dive into the exciting world of women's hockey and make sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode. And welcome back to Rinkside Rundown. I'm your host, Chris Sinclair, and today I'm excited to be joined by Kali Maechtel, a defender with the Whitby Wolves. Kali, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to hang out, share your story. I'm excited to dive in. Are you?
I'm more excited.
Nice. I love it. Then let's do that. Let's dive into your story. And it feels like a natural starting point is always how things got started for you. So what is your story when it comes to your love for hockey? When did it start? How did it start?
So I would say, as many people, my hockey career did start from a very young age. I was kind of blessed with an older sister who's an 06 who was always around sports, playing hockey, lacrosse, volleyball, every sport you can think of pretty much. And then kind of with her teammates, it kind of just grew fond to me. We would always go to the ODR, winter, New Year's, everything. So she was kind of just like a role model for me. So seeing her do it, I was like, I want to do it. So that's how I got into it. And then obviously, like, when I was younger, growing up, it was just like, there was nothing that was better. Hockey was just the best sport.
And so do you remember what it was when you first laced up those skates and you hit the ice? Like, what was it like to actually get out on the ice, especially as, you know, you're looking at your sister and saying like, oh, I love what you're doing. This is so cool. What was it like for you to be able to get out on the ice, hit the ODR, all that sort of stuff for the very first time? And you still, even in this moment, you know, as you continue your career, do you still look back on those experiences and be like, oh, I love hockey?
I definitely do. Like, it was just kind of like such a good like community and everything with hockey. And then my family was just so supportive, and like my parents are such big hockey fans. So like when they heard like I was interested in hockey, they were like over the moon. And especially with hockey, like I'm a very competitive person. So that side of it was just like another bonus on top of it all.
Nice. Yeah. And when it comes to choosing the position that you played, often, you know, I think about goaltending, especially when it comes to women's sports. It's often everyone's rotating through the various positions. When it comes to becoming a defender, what was it about that position in particular that kind of drew you to it? And do you ever also sit back and say, you know what? I kind of wish I was scoring more goals. I wish I was a forward.
Well, personally, like if you watch some of my game clips, I would not say I'm a very defense. Obviously I'm always jumping up in the play, and that's kind of one of the things I did like most about being a defense. You're kind of the quarterback and you have like the ability to be more offensive and or be more defensive. For me, when I was choosing what I kind of wanted to be, I just really liked controlling the play, helping it break out, and like making sure everything rolled cleanly, which I feel like defense, like that's kind of what you do. And I kind of just love to control it all, be the quarterback and dictate kind of most things that happen, as well as I said, like the ability to jump in the play. Like you get to choose if you want to jump up, if you want to stay back, if you want to protect your goalie. If it's kind of all up to you, whereas some other positions, it's like, this is what you do, this is how you do it, and it's very just like strict and straight to it. But even like I did have for a moment think about switching positions to a forward when I was in North York, just because one of my teammates was hurt, one of the forwards. So my team, we kind of needed to produce more goals. So I jumped up in that position for a month or and a bit. And it was amazing, but at the end of the day, like defense is kind of what was just made for me.
Okay, so I think that's a really unique skill set to have, is to be able to jump up. I always admire those players who can either, and we saw it here in Ottawa with Isabel with the Ottawa Charge. She's a forward, played defense because there were some injuries, and played defense because there were injuries for a lot of the end of the season. So I always admire those kinds of players who can jump up, and especially it's not going from right wing to left wing or center to left wing. It's an entirely different job description. What do you think those opportunities, so to move into a different position, even if it was just for a short period of time, and you're like, thank goodness now I'm back at defense because that's my happy place. What was it like? What do you think those experiences and those opportunities, how do you think it's helped you as a player?
I think it's helped me in so many ways. Obviously, being kind of agile and being able to be flexible and jump in when needed, especially the game of hockey isn't really set play. It kind of just is like someone takes this lane, you have to take a different one. You can't kind of predict what's going to happen. So even in that sense, like if the forwards are out of position or something, you're going to need to jump in their position to kind of cover for them. So I feel like it helped me in that sense. And not even that, just kind of being able to make sure I have every asset in my toolbox. So like being able to do different things probably was like the best thing I got from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, it gives you more options. It gives the coaching staff more options to say, hey, listen, we have an injury, something's happened. Okay, Maechtel, you're hopping up into the forward group, or hey, listen, we're all good. You're moving back down to defense. It gives them more options, and I think too, there's also a strategic advantage there from the coaching staff's perspective, in that the other team might not know that, like, yeah, you're listed as a defender, but you could easily just slip into that forward group and make an impact there. So I love that. You had mentioned, the impact that your sister has had on you in terms of at least getting into, and I'm sure it continues, but it's certainly getting into hockey. One of my favorite questions to ask, and one that I love, I could spend the entire episode talking about, is the impact that family has had on you. So when we talk about family, a lot of the time as a fan, we just see you on the ice. Sure, we might recognize your parents, or we might recognize a sibling or something like that in the stands. But really, like, we're there and we're watching you. We don't necessarily realize it really does take a village in terms of being able to support a hockey player, any sport, but especially hockey, especially with how expensive it is, both time and financially. Talk about the impact that family had on you, especially early on in your career.
For me, my parents were never really no people. So besides hockey, I played so many various sports, and they were the people that were like, if you can make it work and if you can manage your time, we'll do it. We'll figure it out. So for me growing up, that was such a big advantage. Like my parents obviously are my biggest supporters, which you probably hear a lot. But like the thing I love most kind of is like the quote that I kind of live by is like someone's always doing better than you or like doing more than you in academics and athletics. So kind of if I was doing 2 practices a week, there's someone out there doing 3. So say I could add another one in, my parents would have to like make it work and everything, which I'm so grateful for because they have their own lives kind of going on and work and everything. But they always made it work. If I could like schedule my time and everything properly, which I do think was something that was very important with these big schedules, they were always there to drive. And kind of besides that, my grandpa and my sister were always one call away if I ever needed anything, if I was late to a practice, if it was like anything in general. So not only like the support from my parents, but my grandpa and my sister was just, I couldn't have done it without them.
And when you And this is exactly why I love this question, because it's like I think in life we are always forward thinking. We're not necessarily reflective of like, how did I get here? Who helped me to get here? So it's always nice to be able to hear that, but also to be able to reflect yourself as well, right? Um, when you think about as your career has continued, and we're going to get into what is an exciting next stage of your career, not too far down the line. We'll get into that in just a moment. But, as you think back to, all those times at the rink and having family there and supporting you and continuing to see, like you fell in love with this sport and you're still doing it and you're as motivated now, if not more so than you've ever been, and you have this exciting next chapter. What is it meant to be able to, like, from having that family support at the rink, all those sorts of things, knowing that you're living your dream, this is what you want to do. What has that meant for you when it comes to family as well, like having them in the stands, having them cheering you on, all that sort of stuff?
Honestly, I would say, like, there's no better feeling, like, going to a game and having your parents say, like, "Great game," and, like, telling you kind of what you did good, what you did wrong is the best thing. Like, they're the most honest people, and they have gotten you to the point where you are now. So, I just think it's so vital, and honestly, even, like, your parents' feedback, like, no one will be more raw than they will. And obviously,
For
like
better or for worse, yeah.
exactly. So, like, if they're telling you something, it's for the best, because they've been there through all of it and many generations of hockey and sports and everything. That's the only thing I would say.
Okay, that's fair. And you had mentioned earlier, or alluded to it anyways, about being involved in a lot of different sports. One of those sports is lacrosse. That's a passion of yours as well. What's it like for you to balance academics along with being a multi-sport athlete?
Again, I know I already said this, but for me, scheduling was such a big thing. Always, I'd have to plan out my study hours, the drive to the rink, lacrosse practices, everything like that. But I don't think I would be able to be the player I am today without lacrosse. Just kind of the support behind it, as well as like a lot of the aspects of lacrosse translate into hockey. So I just think the managing my time, and my parents always making it work somehow, um, they made it easy for me, honestly.
Yeah, definitely owe a lot to your family. That's for sure. Um, Now, when you look, and we're kind of jumping again a little bit forward here, but it's topical at this point. When you look forward to your collegiate career, which is in the not too distant future, as I've mentioned, how do you think the fact that you've been able to balance, like at that point, it's just going to be hockey and academics? Not to say that's still not like that's still a lot to balance. Don't get me wrong, but you've been a multi-sport athlete to this point. What's it? What do you think, or how do you think being a multi-sport athlete and having to balance spin so many different plates has helped you or will have helped you to prepare as you embark soon on your collegiate career?
I think honestly, being a multi-sport athlete my whole life has done nothing but help me, as well as moving forward to university. I kind of think like university, the workload obviously is a lot harder, especially the expectations for the hockey standpoint of it. Um, but obviously, there's only like I'm only playing hockey down there, and you're kind of in like a smaller community than you would be if you're at home, because there's not more like private sessions or like you're going out to skate or work on anything like that. It's kind of just at your rink with your coaches. So I think that standpoint probably be a bit easier, as well as kind of just doing it my whole life, always being rushed and kind of stuff like that will kind of make it feel like a breeze, I feel like personally.
All right, I love the confidence going into that. I can't wait to reconnect with you as you embark in that career and see if it's still you're still feeling the same way. I hope so. I hope so.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, as you reflect on your career, What are some of the challenges, the biggest challenges that you faced? And that can be on the ice, that can be maybe in the, academic side of things. Maybe that's something else. What are some of those challenges that you feel like you've had to face and then overcome?
I probably would say the biggest challenge I've ever had to face was being a girl in a boys dominant sport.
Mm,
For me personally, the experience talking about it today is just incredible and like kind of indescribable. The boys were my biggest supporters. They kind of pushed me to who I was today, and especially even in the gym and stuff, they pushed me way beyond my limits. But kind of just starting out when I was younger, especially with all the noise around with a girl playing in a boys sport and being like kind of the only girl in the league, obviously was hard. But my parents just kept telling me like, if you love it, keep doing it. Don't worry about it. And it kind of, as I grew up from like U11 on to U22 and where I am today, um, there's not really been any problems. But I would say like at the start, it was hard. It kind of felt like I was a target on everyone's back because you don't see many girls playing in a boys dominant sport nowadays. So that was probably the only challenge, but I'm so grateful I did it and my parents were there to support me because if not, I wouldn't have had all like the best friends I do now, and maybe not even be where I am today.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that because there's no way to downplay that as a challenge, right? That is a huge challenge that so many young women have had to face and have had to overcome. And, to have that perseverance to overcome though that tremendous challenge is something that's incredibly inspiring. And I want to know, when you think about that challenge, you kind of spoke to it a little bit, but I really want to dive a little bit deeper in terms of, when you think about those challenges and you think about what's next and you think about we can talk about women's sports just in general. Obviously, women's hockey is the primary focus here, but, how do you think it's helped you to grow? And like, not just as a hockey player, but as a person, how do you think having to overcome those obstacles has helped you to grow as a person?
I think it's definitely helped me in very tremendous ways. Um, just kind of taking the sports out of it, just kind of learning to like keep the outside noise out and just focus on myself. If it's something that anyone loves, you should just stick to it and not really worry about what anyone else thinks or what they're saying behind your back. Because at the end of the day, if you love it and you want to pursue it and you keep kind of pushing and you have that perseverance, you can grow way above all of that. And when I was younger, my parents just kept embedding that kind of into me. And I came out of it stronger than ever. I think kind of my ability to persevere after that and kind of just like not only trust myself, but really just like rely on myself for some things and tell myself like just keep going, like just get through it, you'll be okay. Definitely helped me, and now is kind of embarked into my hockey career. Because there's not really anything that was harder than that, I would say. And it's definitely just helping me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's helping so many other people when they see your story, when they hear your story. This is inspiring, like I said earlier, right? So overcoming those obstacles is more than just what it is on the ice. It's also who you become, right?
Yeah, I honestly just really hope that like people, not just me, but like other people that have done it before, just make it easier for the generations below that can do it as well.
Yep. That's what's key. That's what this is. It's not just about this current generation. It's about inspiring the next generation. And I love that. I love that. Speaking of which, perfect segue. Who were some of your role models and influences as you were growing up in the sport?
I honestly I don't even think there could be one person that is my biggest role model. I would say everyone before me in the PWHL, and kind of all of the women in sports before me kind of carved the pathway for me to be where I am today. A lot of the opportunities were not as easy as it seems. Like a lot of women had to work kind of to get to where it's just simple to say, like Natalie Spooner, probably one of the first. and just some people like that. So obviously, like, you have to thank them for everything they've provided for you, because I don't think I would have this pathway if it weren't for them and for them kind of keeping to it and being resilient.
That's a great answer. And I want to now hear, conversely, knowing that you are also someone that is inspiring the next generation as well. How does it feel? You grew up with these role models, or at least these influences. Maybe they're not, not necessarily role models, but I think subconsciously maybe, but certainly influences. Knowing that you're now one of those people who's inspiring the next generation, how does that make you feel? How do you, how do you handle that?
That honestly just makes me feel so grateful for kind of like the opportunities I've been given by like coaches, friends, family, and just everything in general. Knowing I can like inspire someone from the next generation, or like even just like someone younger than me, just kind of makes me reflect kind of on my actions and how important everything is. Always keeping your cool in games, kind of body language, just some stuff like that. But it's an unreal experience. Like, I hope that like all girls get the chance to kind of pursue their dreams. And there's honestly, I hope there's nothing just standing in their way.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, remove those barriers because there's a lot. There are a lot of special. There's a lot special that's coming out from women's hockey, and it's long been there, but now it's great to actually see it. Trickling down from the PWHL now to the junior or collegiate leagues, junior leagues, and then beyond that. So that's great. I love that. And as you look, or rather, as you continue your career, one of the things that I think is really great about sports in general, for sure, but especially women's hockey, is the connection that the players have with the community. It isn't just about, great, I'm going to hit the ice, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to, all these sorts of things, but it's really integral to, entrench yourself within the community, and connect with people, connect with the fans, share experiences, and that really lights people. Like, fans love that. It lights them up. What's it been like for you to go through your career, and especially, as you had mentioned earlier, some of the challenges that you faced? What does it mean to you to be able to give back to the community, to connect with the community, and again, inspire?
Honestly, I love this question. Um, Obviously, going from North York to now back to Whitby, my hometown, was a lot of I want to come back to kind of where I started from, give back to the community, and kind of help out who was there for me. Because you're kind of around people that aren't all from North York, it's people from everywhere. And then coming back to Whitby, just kind of giving back to the community that gave you so much was the biggest thing I wanted.
Yeah, and could you maybe talk about some of those experiences that you've had? Being able to, I love that story where it's like it's in a way it's kind of gone full circle at this point where you're now back in your hometown and being able to give back to the community. What were some of your favorite experiences? What are some of the things that you've been able to do, and in terms of connecting with your community?
It's so hard to pick a favorite. Probably one of my close to favorites, kind of not even in my organization, was just kind of like I have these 5 to 10 little girls on my court that are obviously are aspiring to be university kids, and get the PWHL next steps as well. They're knocking on my door every other night wanting to go play hockey. They come to my games. They're like my little sisters and biggest supporters. They obviously have been so big for me, and just having them there to know like I have an impact on the people to come. Um, it just kind of makes me reflect a lot on myself, as well as the impact the people had before me and how I looked up to them, and now I'm that person for some other people.
Yeah, that must feel like such a surreal experience, right? When you think, I'm just doing something I love, and I have, these fans and these, like, like you said, your sisters, so passionately supporting you. It must just feel so surreal, and like I feel like it must be constant pinch me moments where it's like, is this what's like, I'm just doing something I love, and like there, I've found a connection with the community, and the community finds a connection with me. How does that feel for you?
It just feels so amazing. Like you described it so well. There's not really any feeling to replace it other than like you are that role model for people. Um, and kind of you have an influence on how things could go for their life, and you have the ability to help them and kind of just like give them that person that they can look up to and reach out to if they ever need anything. Because obviously, even in my recruiting period of time, I reached out and leaned on so many people that were my role models and kind of my sister's age and even older to help me through that process. And knowing that, like, I hope they'll reach out to me when they're going through it, and I'll always be someone they can like look up to and know that I'll support them and help them if they ever need anything.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, but the hockey community is like, yeah, yes, they say it's small, but it's like it isn't small. I would say it's very tight knit. We're all like, all of you are there to support one another, bounce ideas off of one another. Hey, I watched your game, do this. Hey, you did a great job in last night's game. Hey, like you said, recruiting, I don't know what I'm doing. Could you help me? All those sorts of things. I think that's what makes sports in general so amazing, but especially women's hockey. And I think, as we've spoken a little bit about, your time in the OWHL, starting with the North York Storm, and now, as we've mentioned, back home with the Whitby Wolves. What's it like to be a part of that league? That is I've seen quite a few games. That is a really, really good league. What's it like to be a part of it?
Honestly, it's the only league I've ever really been in for hockey. But I would say just kind of like how it's organized and everything like that is honestly amazing, especially moving up to junior now. Um, every player is so competitive and talented, and teams like there's not really a game that you can just go to and not show up to because the scoreboard will like reflect on that. Um, which I love, and just kind of like the community you get from it. Like obviously Ontario for women's hockey is known to be quite strong, but everyone's like your enemies on the ice, but like your friends outside the ice. And it's kind of just an amazing feeling, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because every time I've seen a game in the league, it's like it's fiercely competitive, and then as soon as the final buzzer goes, everyone's out there like hugging each other and like chatting after the game, and it's like, and I'm not talking just teammates, I'm talking opponents, right? Like
Yeah.
you cross the ice, you're like, hey, that was a great game, and like all this, hey, how's it going, and all that sort of stuff. So when you talk about the community feel of the league, I couldn't agree more. I've literally seen it firsthand. I just saw it 2-3 weeks ago, and it was just like, I was like, they were just like, they were going pretty hard at each other the entire game, and now they're just like, hey, what's up? Hey, how's it going? Hey, you played a great game, missed you. And it's just so incredible to see that in this league. And you know I think that leads well into, when you think about your time in this league, now playing with two different teams, what has your time with, or how has your time with those organizations, those two organizations, really helped you to become not just the player that you are now, but also the person you are?
I would say kind of starting off with North York, our group was closer than ever. We were so tight knit. I went over there in COVID, kind of looking for some guidance and help and play with some of the best 08s, and that's exactly what I got. Our team culture was like undescribable. Like any coach looking at us would be like, wow. Like we just were that close. As well as for me, North York built the fundamentals that I took with me to Whitby. And then kind of just diving into Whitby again, being close to the community, it's just a different experience, honestly. North York was an hour and a bit drive for me, whereas Whitby is just like, I could walk to the rink if I really needed to.
And so could family. And so could family. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was a lot more support from my community and family, just like my neighbors as well. But again, I was blessed with another good culture, good community, and good organization. And I really do think they've kind of helped me keep going. And they've supported me through it all.
Yeah, and speaking of continuing to go, you there, like we've talked about, you are in the very near future embarking on an incredibly exciting next venture, and that's to head off to Boston U. That's like when I think about collegiate programs, I like BU is like, if it's not right at the top, it's like it's neck and neck. That is an incredible program to be a part of, and the giant smile on your face, which it tells me that you're just as excited, probably a lot more, but you're just as excited as I am to see this next step in your career. What was it like? I mean, first of all, congratulations on being committed. So that's great. That's
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
So, yeah, this shouldn't. I don't want to miss that. Congratulations. I saw that, and I was super excited for you. And you know, for we talked about it a little bit earlier about getting that help when you're a younger player and not knowing the process, especially when it comes to committing to your collegiate career. Let's shed some light on what that process is like. What's it like to go through the process of choosing what is going to be the next step of your career, especially in your case, that isn't happening this year, right? So, you have a little bit of a runway. What went into the process? What was that process like for you to go through with Boston U?
So obviously I'd kind of just like to start off by saying like the process is so different for so many people. Like my process could be entirely different from so many other players' processes. But for me personally, I knew I wanted to always be an NCAA athlete. I knew the schools I wanted to go to. Obviously, Boston was one of the top. Um, so I kind of started like reaching out to coaches and kind of like making sure I know who they are, like saying hi in passing, smiling at them. Probably in grade 8, I was very involved at a very young age. Just because I kind of knew what I wanted and knew what I aspired to be when I was growing up and older. So obviously having that start from a young age, and I got to build and form a lot of bonds with coaches and players and programs and organizations, everything like that, for so many years before my grade 10 June 15th came around for me. And then kind of going through that process, everyone does say it's very scary, but for me it was just so excelling. It's kind of just like you wake up and realize all your hard work kind of is being shed light to, and people are recognizing you for that. I would say you just have to make sure like you're really scheduling your times, blocking it out, and just kind of take everything in. It only happens once in a lifetime for most athletes. And kind of if you're getting to speak to so many coaches and university and even Canadian universities and everything, you just have to take in all the information they have. They're so knowledgeable and their feedback is so important. So kind of just like taking kind of in all their knowledge they have, what they like about your game, what they want to see you improve, just even that in general is so valuable, and you can take so much from every call. So honestly, just enjoy it.
And we will be right back. This episode is sponsored by sports nutritionist Melissa Buffunos of MB Performance Nutrition. As a former competitive hockey player turned nutritionist, Melissa's mission is to help the next generation of hockey players optimize their diets and health so they can perform their best both on and off the ice. Ready to dominate on the ice? Melissa's new course, The Hockey Nutrition Blueprint, is available now. If you're serious about learning how nutrition can impact performance and building actionable nutrition strategies based on your unique needs as an elite hockey player, learn more and sign up at melissabuffunos.com/course. That's melissabuffunos.com/course, and make sure to use code Rinkside to save $50 off the regular price. Thank you to Melissa Buffunos for sponsoring this episode. And now back to the show. Okay, so I want to know, especially being a Canadian, obviously the NCAA is definitely a prestigious, place to end up. And I think, the competition there has long been like unparalleled. There's nothing that you can compare to that, the compete level there, and the quality of those of those universities. Maybe would you mind sharing a little bit more about why, like you said, you were like, I knew all along that I wanted to go NCAA. Can you talk a little bit about why NCAA as opposed to U Sports? Do you mind shedding some light on that?
For me personally, a lot of my role models and peers went to NCAA. I always kind of knew the difference between Canadian sports compared to NCAA, as well as I always as you're a young kid looking kind of at how universities in the USA are, even like some high schools, it looks like an unreal experience. And it's probably something many students dream of, including me. Kind of even outside of playing hockey at Boston, the community and kind of like the atmosphere that NCAA provided for me was just something I love, as well as the high competition. It kind of just checked all of my boxes, and I wouldn't say there's any downfall, of course not, to go into a Canadian university. But for me, it was just kind of the experience I'd be getting at NCAA outweighed Canadian university, and it's all kind of up to people's preferences.
Plus, it's Boston U. Like when I'm looking forward to following up with you to find out what it was like for you to put on that jersey for the very first time. Because when I get excited, and I'm never going to put that jersey on, I get excited when I see that jersey. So in no time, you're going to be putting that jersey on for the first time. And speaking of, again, of Boston U, shed some light on like, what specifically was it about Boston and the university that clicked for you?
So obviously, personally, I was kind of blessed with getting Boston to kind of reach out to me on June 15th, as they were my dream school. Which I kind of going through the process, a lot of people told me like some of the schools you want most won't reach out to you. So I was just so grateful I kind of got that experience in the first place. And then for me, it wasn't one thing that kind of drew me to Boston. It was always just like the people I know that went there and came out of Boston were people that are kind of like-minded and very well respected. And for me, Boston they had everything I wanted. They had like the hockey atmosphere, the coaching, unbeatable in my opinion. They were amazing people. Even women's staff was another whole thing we can get into. The environment in Boston, I kind of wanted more of a city feel, but if you honestly get kind of into the depths of Boston and outside of Main Street, it does kind of feel suburban at times, which I did kind of like. And then lastly, like just their academics, they have really high academics. I thought I could get a lot out of the school besides hockey. And then also just I love the conference, the team, everyone in Boston, and if it was up to me, I'd go now.
Yeah, I bet. I wish there was a way that you could, and I'm sure you agree, that you could just skip this part and get right to that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's talk about the coaching staff and just the team that's there, like off the ice. What do you think, or like, how do you think they're going to help to impact you? And again, I always like to ask this in two parts, in that, impact you as a player, but also as a person.
So I'm going to talk about coaching first, but the coaching staff was amazing. They even told me, like, on one of my calls, they said, we have one day that's called no questions asked. So say something's going on personally or whatever it is, they kind of understand women and girls further than some people can, which personally I really appreciated that, especially playing boys all my life. You didn't normally get kind of that. Just a lot of things they said aligned with me personally, as well as their personalities were so outgoing. Tara Watchcorn, their head coach, is so well respected in Team Canada, Team Ontario, everything kind of like that. And when we were on our calls and everything, there's not much to say, but it just feels right. It either feels right or it doesn't. And for me, it felt so right. They were so funny. We were laughing. Like, it didn't seem like it was like a scary recruiting call. For me, it was like I was talking to my like soon to be best friends, which I loved.
Yeah, that's especially as you're looking at, like, this is, like you said, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Um, just to, like, just in general of being able to start your or look at your collegiate career, to have that connection right away. Oh, that must just have like alleviated so many, potential fears or worries or concerns. It's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go hang out with my friends. Like, that's how it felt.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
bet they won't be so friendly when we're like in a tie game or something for like
No, no, they'll be relying on you remembering that you thought that you were all friends in those moments for sure. Absolutely,
exactly.
yeah. So, you know, I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed about your story is that there's so much to inspire the next generation. And that's something that's very much at the forefront for you is, it's cool that you're getting all these opportunities, that you're about to embark in another great experience, but that you're always still focused on the next generation. So I want to know from you, what would be some advice that you'd want to share with young girls aspiring to play hockey at the highest of levels?
That's a tricky one. I'm just honestly, I would just kind of say take it all in. Everyone kind of when they give you advice, you just have to learn how to accept it and be coachable. That's like the most valuable thing I do think. Um Taking people's advices and displaying them into a game setting is so important. Obviously, if you think otherwise and think that's not going to work, just trust them because they're so knowledgeable and everything. And just stick to your path. Again, keep the outside noise out. Because at the end of the day, only you can make or break your career moving forward. And it's only kind of how much you put into it is what you'll get out.
Oof. I feel like like that's just life advice, and that was really good. I feel like I'm walking away being like, oh yeah, I should just stick to my path. Like, I got this. So that's great. That's fantastic. When we think about inspiring the next generation, not only are you doing that, but the players in the PWHL are obviously, that's now become, it's long overdue, but now have become the pinnacle of women's hockey, right? Typically, for women's hockey players, you'd have to, you'd go to college and then you would graduate and then you'd hopefully play for the national team, or you'd have to go overseas. And those are pretty much your only channels to be able to continue the sport that you love. Now there's another one. So I want to know, as we approach season 2 of the PWHL, what are your thoughts on the league and how you think this may have opened up, hopefully, an opportunity for you down the line to continue your career now at a professional level?
I think just kind of in general, it's opened so many doors for so many young women. Even me kind of growing up, I was always like, I'm going to play in the NHL because there was no kind of spot for us young girls to aspire to play in. So now kind of opening that is like a whole different world that's provided. So that's such a great opportunity. And I do think further along in PWHL, there will be a lot more teams to join, which will be more eventful, kind of hopefully coming up point to point with NHL. And obviously they kind of did it themselves, but the game being more physical is just like so much more fun to watch. I would say personally, especially playing boys lacrosse, like I love the physicalness. I think they're going to allow full contact very soon, and it will just make the game better, as well as the new generations coming up. Again, just such new talent, so many new tactics and everything like that will just be so amazing to watch.
Yes, it will be. And I say this every chance I get. I have watched many sporting events across various different leagues: basketball, baseball, the Ottawa Senators. I've watched all these different sports, soccer. There is still nothing that comes close to my experiences watching women's hockey, and especially being able to watch it live. So the growth of this league, having players, down the line, in the not too distant future, like yourself, who will be injecting some excitement and some physicality and all those sorts of things into this league is certainly something that that's really it's inspiring. We talk. I feel like the theme of this conversation has been inspiration or inspiring, and I think that applies here as well. And I want to know, we're gonna wrap things up here, but there are a few additional questions that I have, and these are scientifically proven questions to really get to know Kali Maechtel. Are you ready to take these questions?
I'm honored to take them.
Oh, perfect. Okay, good. Yeah. The crack team here at Rinkside Rundown spent a lot of time on these questions. So I'm very, very excited to find out a little bit more about you. So we're going to start off with a rather profound question. Not to brag, but a rather profound question. What are you most proud of from this past season?
Honestly, I'm just so proud of kind of how our team came together. In the end, of course, was probably one of our strongest kind of ends to the game. We went through a lot of adversity on our team with so many things, as well as many hockey teams do. I think for my rookie season and being the youngest on the team, they provided so much support, and I think I did grow a lot as a player throughout those years. And I'm just so glad I got to do it with them and kind of get my rookie season done and over with. Coming out kind of stronger than ever, no injuries.
That's good. And I love it. You're spoken like a true, passionate hockey player, is that it's not about you. That answer wasn't about you. It's just the team overcoming adversity. And I think that's, when you're trying to be a great hockey player, it's about being a great teammate. And when you're a great teammate, it isn't about you. It's about everyone around you. So great answer. I love that. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
How would you, for those people who haven't had the opportunity to see you play live, you had mentioned earlier about your excitement that the PWHL is continuing to move more in the physical side of things. How would you describe your style of play?
I would start by saying I'm a very fluid skater. Very physical. Obviously, now with the game becoming more physical, as we've said, using your body to be on the defensive side, take puck, just some stuff like that. I would say I'm a very offensive D. I love jumping up, but again, I'm reliable in the back end as well. I'm very aware of the clock, so if it's a tie game or we're up one, obviously I'm not going to be jumping in looking for a breakaway. Just some stuff like that. And I would say I'm a good teammate on and off the ice. I feel like I'm someone easy to get along with. But my teammates make it easy.
Yeah, well, so do you. So don't sell yourself short on this one. For anyone involved in sports, there is no true off season. It isn't like, I'm just going to take a vacation for the next couple of months, chill out, relax. There's always something going on. When you look at, throughout your junior career, and maybe also potentially forward thinking in terms of when you begin your collegiate career, what does an off season look like for Kali Maechtel?
Well, for me, always growing up, obviously being a multi-sport athlete, the off season was always just lacrosse. Which allowed me kind of to be in the gym with the guys, staying kind of active and everything, and being always doing something. I didn't have a lot of free time. And then coming back around to hockey, I was always so excited. I was still in shape, conditioned, everything like that, which was so easy kind of for me, where some people at the younger ages jump back and they'd feel so bad on the ice, whatever. But as I've grown older, obviously lacrosse has kind of taken a backseat to hockey. And my kind of summer kind of consists of a lot of just in the weight room training. You can't really get better without getting stronger, is what I've always been told. So kind of I was in a program where we'd work out 5 days a week in the gym. And then we would be on the ice 2 or 3 times working on just very specific things, not kind of like a very heavy practice, maybe just shooting accuracy, passing, deception, just whatever kind of I felt I needed to work on. But it's kind of just a very consistent summer, not really that much going on. But the best thing is just to keep staying consistent is what I'd say.
Consistency is key. That's what they say. I like that. Speaking of consistency, what would you say is your go-to pregame meal?
Oh my God, I love this. So I don't have like one pregame meal because obviously we play every weekend, which I'm not eating the same meal for 2 days. But I would say it's either steak, pasta, chicken Caesar, butter chicken is so good. But like the one thing I have always stuck to is pomegranate juice. I have it like with every kind of pregame meal. And then there are these like electrolytes roar drinks, which I recommend to anyone. They are beyond the best drink ever. And I kind of have those when I get to the rink. I always have one get to the rink kind of in between periods, just some stuff like that.
Nice. Yeah, I do enjoy a good roar drinks are my go-to when yeah, absolutely.
What flavor is your favorite?
I wish that I could say there was just one, but the good news is I haven't found one that I don't like. So for me, I can just reach for whatever flavor and it's like, oh, this is good. Like it's consistently good. We talk about consistency is key. Roar continues to nail it.
They should sponsor us.
Yeah, they should. Yeah, you're telling me. Okay, so I want to know throughout the season, who owns the locker room music, and what do you recall being played the most often?
So for our kind of change room, we kind of had basically a team playlist, which kind of varied with a few different songs, but the majority of it was like the same. Not really one person ran it in our change room. There was like 2 or 3 people that kind of like switched and alternated. They just decided to like take that kind of role and leadership role on. Probably the most playing was probably obviously rap before a game, maybe mixed in with some country. And then after the game, if we were super happy, it'd be like some nice hip hop. If it was like we lost horribly and played bad, maybe it'd be some like sad country. But we kind of like mixed it all in. And after game and post game was kind of just like the mood. Like if it's a late game, we're not gonna be playing rap in the change room. It'll probably be some like sad country. So just kind of some stuff like that.
Okay, I like it. Play on the mood of the team. I totally get that. That's totally fair. And when we speak of music, for you personally, if you had to choose only one song to play for the rest of your life, what song would that be? And that song doesn't have to play all the time, but it does when you press play, that has to be the song.
This makes me so happy. So I definitely say Drinking Alone by Ty Myers.
Wow, you are the very first person who immediately had an answer for that. I don't even know, and I've asked this question a bunch of times. I still don't know that I could have an answer for that question. And undoubtedly, you knew exactly who it was, exactly the song. I can't say that I've ever heard that song. Maybe I have, but that's fantastic. That's impressive. So great.
You're gonna have to go listen to it after this.
I have to. It's gonna be the first thing that I do. That's fantastic. Really caught me off guard there. I thought you'd need more time. So what's something that remains on your bucket list?
Oh my God, there's so many things. Obviously, kind of for the sports side of it, I would say obviously Team Canada hockey and lacrosse has always been like such a big wish of mine, as well as PWHL, hopefully. And then the Olympics representing my country. And then kind of outside of the sports world, I would say just traveling the world. I kind of want to see everything. And kind of, I don't know, I feel like there's something to be said for just exploring and seeing kind of how other people live and just kind of making sure like you see and know the world. When I was like, my parents always like embedded that in my head when I was younger. My mom, right before COVID, she took us on a Mediterranean cruise, and those were like the best few months of my life, and now I just can't wait to kind of like look more around the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Traveling is a great answer. And I just want to point out here, just remember the rest of us when you're famous, when you're playing for Team Canada, when you're in the PWHL, just remember the rest of us. That's all
I'll send you tickets.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to know what's something that people may not know about Kali Maechtel.
I'm a very open person. I would probably say that not many people know during COVID while I was playing hockey and lacrosse, I did play volleyball as well. I was on Durham Attack Tier 1, and it was a surreal experience, kind of the different environment in volleyball and community and everything you kind of got from it. And my team ended up going all the way to nationals and winning it, which was such an amazing experience again.
Wow, look at oh my goodness. Just casually like drop that at the end of a conversation. Just like, yeah, oh by the way, yeah, I won. No big deal. That's incredible. That's fantastic. So there we go. That's a pretty good answer to that question, I'd say.
Yeah, and just like everything about volleyball, like the different kind of environment you're put into is just crazy. Like I've even been once playing volleyball at it's supposed to be a hockey rink, but they just put floor in and you fit like 5 courts in the one ice rink and you're like side by side with another court. Like it's a crazy experience, but it's so hype. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, volleyball was always one of my go-to sports in when I was in high school. So I definitely have a deep passion for the sport. That's for sure. I always watch it when I can.
The only
Um,
downfall I would say about volleyball though is like if you make a mistake, like it is all your fault. Like
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's
No
like
one else is bailing you out on that one. No,
exactly.
no, no. Yeah, but I feel like you must be like as a defender, you're the last. Like obviously the goalie is technically the last line of defense, but you're if you make a mistake,
It's all
like
on me.
it's all on you because then it's like if they scored it's like well you should have been in position and that's on so I guess the good news is volleyball your experiences through volleyball have it's actually I guess kind of gone both ways in that you were a defender and time in playing volleyball you were like you weren't so worried about being that last line of defense because you're so used to being that last line of
Exactly.
defense and then roles or like vice versa when you're a defender, you're like, hey, listen, I just won in volleyball. Like I'm totally fine with I'm not going to be caught out of position. So maybe
Exactly.
it ended up working out well in that regard. I want to know, lastly, before unfortunately we have to end this incredible conversation, what's something that motivates you and inspires you? And you can take this if you want to do personally, if you want to do professionally. However you want to answer this question, I'm going to throw it at you and you run with it wherever it takes you.
I feel like I already mentioned this throughout the call. Um, but my parents and kind of embarked it in me when I was younger, just kind of like whatever you're doing, there's always someone out there doing better or doing more. So not only for sports, but academics as well. Like if you're practicing 2 times a week and there's someone in your class and you're getting like an 80 in your class or something, someone out there is doing 3 practices a week but getting a 90. It kind of just made me feel like never satisfied with what I was doing, knowing that like someone's doing better. There's someone out there that's like doing more than you. Obviously, like rest is so crucial, but as well as repetition is key as well. So I would just say like the competitive side of me kind of comes out in that, but just kind of knowing that and making sure it's kind of like stuck in my mindset always motivates me.
See, I was hoping when you would answer that question sort of earlier, I was hoping that we could wrap up with that answer. So you nailed it. You nailed the delivery on that one. That was absolutely fantastic and a great way to end this conversation. Kind of how we started, where it really comes back to family, right? It comes back to they're the inspiration. Again, we're using that word in this conversation. So, but Callie, I can't appreciate you enough for taking the time Today is obviously another busy day for you, although it's just basically another day for you because they're all always busy. But I appreciate you stopping by today, hopping on the show. I had an absolute blast. It was great to hear your story, and I can't wait to follow you throughout your career, especially as you take that next step into your collegiate adventure. So thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. Like, this has been such a surreal experience, as well as just having some jokes with you has been amazing.
Good. I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm walking away from this conversation. I want you to know, with a giant smile on my face, feeling like this is a great way to kick off the weekend. So again, I cannot appreciate you enough. I'll have you back on. We'll talk more about your career, and I can't wait for that.
Thank you so much again for having me.
Absolutely. And for Kali Maechtel, I'm Chris Sinclair, and this has been Rinkside Rundown. Cheers.